Have you ever wondered how a singular incident can ignite a series of events that forever change the fabric of a society? How a spark in one corner can set an entire nation ablaze? These questions aren't just rhetorical musings, they're the stark reality of the Gujarat riots of 2002. A single act of violence triggered a cascade of events, leading to devastation and loss that are hard to fathom. The effects of these riots weren't confined to the immediate aftermath. Their reverberations are still felt today, shaping the lives and futures of countless individuals. Let's delve into the story of the Gujarat riots, a tragic event that has left an indelible mark on India's history. Our story begins on the fateful day of February 27, 2002. On this day, the town of Godhra in Gujarat, India, became the epicenter of a violent eruption that would shake the nation. A train, the Sabarmati Express, carrying Hindu pilgrims, was set ablaze. The fire claimed the lives of 59 people, mostly women and children. This horrific incident acted as a catalyst, igniting a series of violent retaliatory attacks that would consume Gujarat for weeks. In the immediate aftermath of the train burning, shockwaves of anger and disbelief rippled across the state. The train was returning from Ayodhya, a place of religious significance for Hindus, and the passengers were returning from a pilgrimage. The burning of the train was perceived as an attack on the Hindu community, and this perception stoked the flames of communal tension. In the hours and days following the incident, violence erupted in various parts of Gujarat. The anguish over the train burning was overtaken by a wave of anti-Muslim sentiment. Hindu mobs, fueled by rage and revenge, took to the streets. The violence was not spontaneous, it was orchestrated. The state government, led by Chief Minister Narendra Modi, was accused of not just turning a blind eye, but of complicity in the violence. The violence was brutal and targeted. The Muslim community bore the brunt of it. Homes were looted, people were attacked, and many were killed. Women and girls were not spared either. They were subjected to widespread rape, mutilation, and burning. The state authorities, whose duty it was to protect all citizens, failed in their duty. Instead of acting as protectors, some police and government officials allegedly aided the perpetrators. The spark had been lit, and the state of Gujarat was about to descend into chaos. In the aftermath of the train burning, a wave of retaliatory violence washed over Gujarat. An inferno of hatred and intolerance swept across the state, engulfing the streets in a reign of terror that would last for days. The Muslim community bore the brunt of this onslaught, as their homes, businesses, and places of worship were systematically targeted and destroyed. The violence was not random or spontaneous. It was orchestrated, fueled by extremist groups that sought to exploit the simmering tensions for their own nefarious purposes. These groups were not fringe elements lurking in the shadows. They operated openly, with a brazen disregard for the rule of law and the sanctity of human life. But the horror did not stop there. The state authorities, those who were sworn to uphold the law and protect the innocent, stood accused of complicity in the violence. Instead of intervening to stop the bloodshed, they were alleged to have turned a blind eye, even aiding the perpetrators in some instances. The violence was not just physical, it was also psychological, designed to instill fear and submission. Women and girls were subjected to unspeakable atrocities, their dignity and humanity stripped away in the most brutal fashion. The objective was clear: to break the spirit of the community and sow seeds of discord that would linger long after the flames had died down. And linger they did. The violence ceased, but the scars remained, etched deep into the heart of society. The survivors, including orphaned children, were left to grapple with the trauma, their lives forever marred by the events of those fateful days. The echoes of their pain and suffering continue to reverberate, serving as a grim reminder of the human cost of intolerance and hatred. When the dust settled, the true extent of the horror became apparent. The Gujarat riots of 2002 had left a trail of devastation in its wake, with the toll of human suffering reaching staggering proportions. The violence, which had erupted like a wildfire, claimed the lives of at least 1,000 individuals, most of whom were members of the Muslim community. But the cost was not just counted in the loss of lives. Thousands more were left traumatized, their lives irrevocably altered by the events they had witnessed and survived. The aftermath of the riots was marked by stories of individuals struggling to piece their lives back together. Orphaned children, widowed women, and men who had lost everything were left to grapple with the trauma of their experiences. The violence had not only taken away their loved ones, but it had also stripped them of their dignity, their sense of safety, and the illusion of communal harmony. The riots had not just left a physical scar on the landscape of Gujarat, but a psychological one on its people. The echoes of the violence reverberated long after the riots had ended, with survivors living in fear and a constant state of anxiety. The struggle to recover was long and arduous, with many still bearing the scars of the violence years later. As the world watched in shock, the events in Gujarat were widely condemned, with accusations of genocide as defined by international law. The violence had not been random or spontaneous. Rather, it was systematic and targeted, with widespread reports of rape, mutilation, and burning of women and girls. The state authorities, who were tasked with protecting the citizens, were accused of not just turning a blind eye, but of actively aiding the perpetrators. The international response was swift, with numerous human rights organizations voicing their concerns and urging the Indian government to take action. However, the accusations of genocide and the alleged complicity of the state authorities remain contentious issues to this day. The events of Gujarat had not only claimed lives, but had also left a community in fear and a nation in shock. This was the aftermath of the Gujarat riots, a dark chapter in India's history that continues to cast a long shadow over its present. The Gujarat riots, like all historical events, left a lasting legacy. These events had far-reaching implications not just for the people directly affected, but for the entire nation. The riots altered societal attitudes significantly. An air of mistrust and fear permeated communities that had coexisted peacefully for decades. The social fabric of Gujarat was torn apart, and the scars of this division are still visible today. The violence led to a marked increase in communal polarization, with people retreating into the confines of their religious identities. Politically, the riots had a profound impact. They became a flashpoint in the national discourse, polarizing opinions and hardening ideological stances. The state government, accused of complicity in the violence, found itself at the center of a storm of controversy. The riots were a watershed moment in Indian politics, influencing electoral strategies and shaping political narratives for years to come. But perhaps the most enduring legacy of the riots is the ongoing struggle for justice by the survivors. The violence left thousands dead and countless others scarred for life. Survivors, including orphaned children, faced severe trauma and struggled to recover. Their quest for justice has been long and arduous. Despite the odds, they have continued to fight, their resilience and courage serving as a beacon of hope in the face of adversity. However, the legacy of the riots isn't just one of division and despair. It's also a story of resilience, of communities coming together in the face of adversity, of individuals standing up for justice. It's a reminder of the strength of the human spirit and the enduring power of unity and compassion. The Gujarat riots serve as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of communal violence and the importance of unity in diversity. They underscore the need for us to learn from our past, to ensure that such tragedies are never repeated, and to strive for a world where peace and harmony reign supreme. The Gujarat riots of 2002 are a chapter in India's history that can never be forgotten. A spark ignited by the burning of a train carrying Hindu pilgrims led to a firestorm of violence, resulting in the loss of at least 1,000 lives, predominantly Muslims. The retaliatory attacks by Hindu mobs were not random acts of violence, but meticulously orchestrated and, as alleged, supported by extremist groups with the complicity of state authorities. In the wake of this tragedy, the aftermath was a landscape of trauma, with survivors, including orphaned children, struggling to recover. Women and girls bore the brunt of the brutality, with widespread instances of rape, mutilation, and burning. The state's failure to protect the victims added another layer of horror to these gruesome events. The legacy of the Gujarat riots is a grim reminder of the catastrophic consequences of religious intolerance and systemic violence. However, it's also a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, as the survivors have strived to rebuild their lives against all odds. As we reflect on these events, we must strive to learn from our past, foster understanding and compassion, and work tirelessly towards a more inclusive and peaceful society.